Over the past couple days, I've been playing Sea of Stars, all thanks to Sabotage Studio so graciously sending me a key. So this is going to be more of a first impressions kind of thing rather than a full-on review, because it might take me a while to finish this one. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, breaking up my initial thoughts into a couple different categories. So more of a list of things I've noticed rather than a full-on analysis, since I've only played the game for just over 5 hours. I didn't play any JRPGs growing up, so while I'm not necessarily looking at this game through that lens of nostalgia, Sea of Stars does make me feel like a kid. It just feels like this grand old adventure with magic and pirates and monsters. I'm really liking the exploration specifically. There are little secret paths and areas to find, and the places I've visited so far are all pretty interesting and imaginative. One thing I was really looking forward to going into the game was the emphasis on climbing and mobility. And yeah, there's a lot of that, dropping down into new areas, riding up on geysers, and finding shortcuts. For example, I'll see a treasure chest kind of tucked around the corner, and getting to it could be a matter of just climbing up onto a ledge, or there could be a much longer way around to it. You'll also come across some spots early in the game that you can't access yet, which makes me excited to think about coming back later when I have that new ability or item and am finally able to see what's going on. Of course, the visuals are also a major selling point, and I often find myself kind of just slowing down to actually look at my surroundings and appreciate all these pixels. Sea of Stars runs great on Steam Deck, which is where I've been playing it most of the time. And then there is the minigame called Wheels. All I'm gonna say is that it's better than Gwent. Interpret that however you want. Now on to the not so great stuff. Some people have been experiencing crashes, but I have not. Hopefully they will get that fixed soon though. The intro of the game is a bit long-winded. You're kind of thrown into a scenario and then it's like, hold on, let's rewind back to the character's childhood for an hour and show how we actually got to this moment. So the introduction could have been shorter and more to the point, but it's really not that big of a deal once you get through it. I'm generally liking the characters so far, but as funny as it is, the two main characters actually have the least personality. Like you could just swap all of their dialogue and I wouldn't really notice a difference. And there generally is a lot of dialogue, which doesn't really bother me because it's broken up by a lot of combat and exploration in between. And speaking of, I often do find myself trying to avoid optional combat encounters just to kind of keep on doing the fun part, which is looking for the secret treasure chests. There's not much variety in combat, at least not yet, so if I don't have to fight, I'm not gonna. And then the last thing for this critique section is not necessarily bad, but I think they could have implemented it in a better way, and that is all of the accessibility options. So they take the form of these relics that you can basically toggle off and on. Having these options is obviously a great thing, but you have to either buy or unlock them as you play the game. I get that the beginning of the game is the easiest part, but I think it's probably best to just have all these options available right from the start so you can decide exactly how you want to play. And finally, a couple things that surprised me. In 5 hours, I've come across 3 random cutscenes like this. No idea if there are more later on, but it's just kind of weird and I wanted to point it out. Biggest surprise for me so far though is that I actually really like the dungeon sections. Normally, like in a Zelda game, I get super burnt out after exploring too many dungeons, but all the jumping and climbing in Sea of Stars makes it a lot more fun. No, the puzzles aren't really that difficult, but they haven't gotten tedious, at least not yet. And the last surprise is the review score on Steam. Currently, it's sitting at 87% positive, and I was sure that it would be overwhelmingly positive, which I think is 95% or higher. Obviously, I haven't finished the game, so I can't really give it my own score, but I don't know. I just had this feeling that it was going to be a massive, massive hit. As I mentioned, there were some people having technical issues, which I totally get giving a bad review for, but there are also some more interesting opinions. Like people being mad that they supported the game on Kickstarter a couple years ago for a higher price than it's currently going for on Steam. Or someone who is upset at these silly signs guiding you to the pirate ship. The humor might not be for everyone, but it's not that bad. And at least it's all text that you could potentially skip over if you wanted to, and there's not just an annoying voice in your ear the whole time. but probably the biggest critique I've read has to do with the combat, which I can definitely see as being one of the game's weak points. I'll have to play more to actually see. All in all, I've been enjoying my time with Sea of Stars, and I'll be putting out a full review probably towards the end of the month. I might go for all the achievements depending on how much longer that'll take, but I usually do like to find all the collectibles, and will do so until it kind of becomes more tedious than it is fun. And if you've been playing the game, let me know how you feel about it. And check out these other cool indie games while I'm finishing this one up.